actually got the ball. Good morning, Tottenham fans all across the world. Good morning, Tottenham fans all across the globe. Hopefully you're all keeping well. Thank you very much for tuning in for the pre-match build-up match day live as Tottenham welcome newcomers of the Premier League, the Tractor Boys, Ipswich Town, down to N17. And for once, we have an opportunity to head into the international break on a bit of a high. So hopefully Tottenham can take that. As you can see, we're joined by a great panel. We're joined by Drew. How are you, Drew?
Doing well, mate. Doing well. Early riser this morning. Looking forward to the game. Hope everyone's well.
Definitely up earlier than me, which is a shame. You consider you live over in America. Pro clubs kept me up late last night to keep a few of them in line. So I do apologize about that, but really appreciate your time today, Drew. And as always, a great guest of the pre-match show. Dermotron, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Dave. Thanks for having me on. Always a pleasure to be on here. And I tell you, the last time, and I know we said this before the show, right? So I'm going to say this stat. I got the stat ready. The last time we beat Ipswich Town was in the 2000 and 2001 season. We beat them on the opening day 3-1. Middlesbrough finished that first day of the season on top. But the bottom three to get relegated that season were West Ham United, Ipswich Town, and Southampton went down at the end of that season. And it was the year also George Graham was manager and Alan Sugar was chairman. The last time we beat Ipswich Town in the Premier League.
I would say that's because they haven't been in the Premier League since then. So, that probably contributes to that record. Was it nearly 25 years since then? So, a lot of things have changed. Tottenham are a different animal. I'd say Ipswich are back to where they started. So hopefully, we can absolutely smash them up today. But great to have you, Darmo. Really appreciate your time, my man. And Donovan, how are you keeping, sir?
Hey, good up. Big up, lads. I'm okay. Life's good. That Galatasaray game, only Tottenham could make you angry about a game you didn't really care about, right? So, time to set the record right today, and we got a brilliant opportunity with relegation fodder ahead of us. So, up the boys. Let's go.
No, 100%. A huge opportunity today. We need to put that. I think many fans will be okay with the Galatasaray result and understand you're going to lose one or two along the Europa Conference League road. But we're going to make up for it today. We have a massive chance to get ourselves, inside the top four with a win today. So let's take that opportunity. Let's tell everybody everything they need to know, and then let's welcome some people in, and then let's crack on. Give me a second. So everything everybody needs to know. Of course, the game is at the Tottenham HOTSPUR Stadium. It is a 2 p.m. kickoff. Referee is Darren England. In the VAR room, it is John Brooks, a.k.a. John Crooks. Mismanaged our games plenty of times. In the TV, if you want to watch the game on TV in the UK and Ireland, it's actually not live unless you check Premier Sports. Might be on there. In the USA, it's on NBC Sports. And in Australia, it is on Optus Sports. And then, injury news, of course, Tottenham missing Mickey van de Ven today. Jed Spence, Wilson Udeberg, Timo Werner, Mikey Moore, Richarlison, and potentially Romero. We'll see how that goes today. For Ipswich Town, Phillips, Clark, Ogbene, Duanzabe, Taylor, Greaves, and Donancian all missing as well. But look, shouldn't really struggle against Ipswich today. They're starting to laugh at them now, calling them the Republic of Ireland. There's not that many Ireland players, so we should be able to beat them. Handy, let's welcome some people in, and then let's crack on. Big up Wembley 1. Good morning, everyone. I think this is one time we can actually welcome the international break. A chance for some of our first teamers to recover. One big push, though, before that. No, absolutely spot on. A good chance to head into the international break, bit comfortable, and in the right fettle for once, rather than sitting there at 2 weeks to stew over the feet. Big up Ben Francis morning. 3 points is a must today. Big Dom to bag a hat-trick today. I think there's many on fantasy football waiting for Big Dom to score for them today. Rimsey says, hey, all, come on, you Spurs, expecting a dominant display today. We've got Finn Rickwood. Big up Dave and Jack. We've got Leon M96 Coys. Morning, Dave, Jack, on the panel. Important game today. On my way to the ground now. Another 3 points and plenty of goals. Well, Leon, you enjoy yourself today, my man. Hopefully you do see plenty of goals, lad. We have Ricky Nato in the house. Big up, brothers. Good to see you. Terry Bett says with the correct lineup, Spurs go win 4-0. I think many fans are expecting to see that today. Kerry King, morning all. It's a must win today as it's at home too. 4-1. Please come on, you Spurs. Kevin Ferguson, big up. This game isn't a given. We have to match their intensity and the quality should come through. Absolutely spot on. Andrew Bailey, hope you're all well. Game day today. Come on, you flat cap army. Hey, Terry, hello, Dave and Jack and everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Come on, you Spurs. Michael W. This morning, guys, looking for Spurs to take us into the break in a happy mood for the game. Come on, you Spurs. Absolutely spot on. Spurs fans seeing off the same hymn sheet for once. What's going on? Ozzy says, good morning, everyone. Good to see you, sir. We also have Brecken. Morning, everyone. Gonna have the stream open in the background to support while I study for an exam. Come on, you Spurs. Well, best of luck in that exam, my man. I tend to find exams aren't so much about the study. It's about the confidence you put around it, I find. If you walk into the exam confident, all this knowledge will come to you. If you walk in nervous and stuff, you tend to forget a lot of things. So I do find a lot of it is about confidence. We have Joe Trimboli. So come on, you Spurs, if we win today, we could be third on the Premier League table if all the results go our way. Absolutely spot on. Big up the midfield general. Good to see you in the house. Hopefully you're keeping well. Big up Stevie. Donovan is in the house along with Drew as well. George Caradas says, so who's going to get injured today playing on top of an NFL pitch? Hopefully nobody today. That would be nice. Lee Harris, to big up Dave in the panel and everyone in the chat. Good to see you. And then we also have Nick Collison. Good to see you. Big up everyone here in Amsterdam watching the game with Amsterdam Spurs and Danny Kiriaki. I was just about to say you over there at Danny. You're over there having fun, Nick. Having a good time. Big up you, Danny, and Amsterdam Spurs. Good to see you all in the house. And then we also have Danny Darko as well. Great to see you, sir, along with Darren Johnson. Good morning. Come on, you Spurs. Great to see you, Darren. Good to see everybody. Really appreciate everybody up nice and early, ready for this game and coming in. But look, let's crack on. We'll start with you, Drew. I've heard a bit of criticism from Spurs fans regarding Postecoglou's decision to rest players midweek in preparation for today. And as they put it, the mighty Ipswich Town. Many find it ridiculous that Postecoglou would prioritise resting players for Ipswich Town and argue that he should focus on selecting a team to win the immediate game rather than holding players back for future fixtures. Drew, what's your take on this? Because I do understand Postecoglou's approach, but I do understand the criticism. I think it does raise a valid point. Many people were surprised that he chose to rest players for Ipswich.
I think it's one of them damned if you do and damned if you don't situations, right? If he had kept players on and somebody had tweaked something and, you know, all of a sudden we haven't got Sonny for a game again because he's relapsed, we end up being in a situation where people turn around and say, why didn't you sub him? You know, so I don't know, man. I think it's one of those things that, I mean, it's a handy talking point for people, but I just think you got to let the manager make the calls, right? He's the manager. You back the manager. He knows the squad. He's with them day in, day out. So I can't get too fussed about that sort of situation. And I'm not sure what he was supposed to do anyway. We're already, I don't want to say bare bones, but we're already, you know, lacking some bodies. And that goes back to having a pretty poor summer window where you really arguably could have brought in a couple more players. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know, man. I think he's just making the best call for the fitness of the team. And I think we should be aware of that and you know, be appreciative of the fact that he's not trying to overload people because he wants to make this season worthwhile. You know what I mean?
No, 100%. I fully agree with that. First of all, big up Scott. I'm sorry about that. I'll try and keep it to a minimum, man. I do apologise. But I agree with you. Look, I think Postecoglou's in a situation where, you know, the likes of Son Johnson, if he did keep them out there for 90 minutes and they pulled up with injury, he'd be criticised the other side going, why didn't we take him off early, this, that, and the other? I think what we need to understand is, you know, there's so many games in modern day football that, you know, manager sort of has to pick and choose his battles to a large degree. And I think he done that. But Dermot, what's your thoughts? Because I know my old lad, I spoke to him about it. He was one that wasn't happy. I was listening to expressions on DR Sports. He wasn't happy about it. You know, as they put it, while we're resting players for the mighty Ipswich Town, we should have put out a strong team to beat Galatasaray and then put out whatever's the strongest team is available today to go and beat Ipswich.
Look, I get it. I think they're right to have their anger. I think they're right to have their concerns that we should put out a stronger team. But they also go along what Drew just said. You know, if Sonny had tweaked something, if Solanke had tweaked something, if Coot, do you know what I mean? If somebody had tweaked something, an important member, and then they're not available for today, then where are we then? So, look, it is damned if you do, damned if you don't. And look, Galatasaray was probably our toughest away game anyway in that Europa League phase. So, look, it's out of the way now. We walk away with a 3-2 defeat, and I think Ange did the right thing. I've got no problems with what he did, and I back him all the way on that. So, look, the league's more important. That's your bread and butter. You got to look after your bread and butter. The competitions are like the dessert. This is where you earn your points. This is where you earn your money, and you've got to look after the Premier League. That's got to come first before anything else. So I've got no problem with what he did.
Fair, Donovan. What's your thoughts on it, sir?
Yeah, brilliant thoughts so far. I think it's just a matter of how we'd lost that game. Like, I think everyone could see that game was there to be had at. Like, they were so open going like on the counter. Had nothing to do with Sanchez or anything, but just the way they played. It seemed like every time we broke forward, we could score. Just a little bit more quality, I think we would have got over the line. That being said, it's important to get those young guys minutes. Lancashire, important. Unfortunately, got sent off, but you can tell he's there. The fighting's there. I mentioned how he needed to learn when to assert himself physically. Like when to like the dark arts of the game. When the ref's not looking, kind of thing, and everything. But no, I think if we were to get blown out 3-0, I think everyone would just take it on the chin. But the fact that it was so close and we rallied once we did put our stronger players on, it was just it's clear to see that there's lessons there. But football's a funny game. Maybe we'll get them in the knockout rounds or something, and we can put it right. So,
what do you think of what HOTSPUR says here? He says we aren't going to win the title, and everyone keeps saying we want to win the Europa League. So he reckons Postecoglou was wrong to do it.
I mean, I still want to finish as high as possible, right? Those two things can still be true. Like, yes, I want to win the Europa League, but I'd also like to finish, top four is not a trophy. I hate it. I'd like to finish as high as possible. So if we win, against Ipswich today, there's a chance we finish higher than if we don't. So.
And even if we do not make the top 8, like we still make that top 24 or whatever it is, like I back our squad fully rotated or not to advance from any knockout round right up to the final. So like it's lessons, right? So
fair.
I mean, look, we're not going to win the title. Yeah, we probably could win the Europa League, but the league's still the bread and butter. You still got to pick up your points to finish as high as you can in the Premier League, and that's finishing third, second, wherever. And Ange's got to do what's right for him. He's got to do what's right for the club and what's right for his players. We don't know what the state of players are in. We don't know if certain players need resting because they're carrying a little niggle. We don't know what the situation is. So I think Ange has to do what he has to do. And, I just don't get it. I mean, you said it yourself, Dave. It was slightly a free hit on Wednesday. I think you said something along them same lines. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I agree with that sort of sentiment where you were going down. It was just one of them games he had to do. So I don't know why everyone's getting so angry about. If we win today, we could be third in the league.
If it was a situation where it was the previous Champions League or a previous Europa League where it was a group of 4 and we'd have already qualified, I mean, we'd have probably played. If it had been a nothing game, we'd have probably played the kids anyway. And I'm not even sure what he was supposed to do on Wednesday anyway. Like, who else were we supposed to have played? We've got so many players out at the moment and people carrying knocks that I just don't.
I think the biggest argument is why didn't we play like Bentancur, Sarr, Kulu, our strongest players against Galatasaray, especially since when the draw was made, many Spurs fans knew that would probably be our toughest away game, how hostile it is. Many people are saying to play the youngsters in that environment was wrong the other night.
don't know, man. God, I'd say that's to get them to grow a pair, right? That's the whole point of playing football. You can't pick and choose when you decide to turn up based on an atmosphere. Like, you've just got to deal with it. And some people dealt with it, and some people didn't. I mean, I don't think Bergamo had a particularly good game, but you know, you pick yourself up and you go for the next one. So
that's exactly
I
it.
don't
Like,
know.
like last year we had Fulham as that litmus test where Ange had to see the players and he had to see these players before the international break. And this is almost the same way because, like you just said there, Drew, like Bergveld did not stand up to any test whatsoever. A lot of these players look a little bit off of it, if not miles. And now we know a better understanding of our squad that, hey, Bergveld isn't that box-to-box like destroyer that'll dig in for the team. He's more of a luxury player. And we saw that. We'll get into Dragusin, I presume, later on, but certain mistakes and stuff. And that ship for Forrester has long gone. So this is just a much-needed kind of rude awakening. But it happens, right? And sorry, Dermot, for cutting you off there, man.
I mean, look, we've got 9 points. We had 9 points out of 9. You know, we mightily broke the back of this top 8 qualification. The next couple of games, we can beat Rangers, get a point, probably a point, or beat Rangers, and then get a few more points and we're through. So I can't see the problem what Ange did on, as Drew said, what was he supposed to do?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, the panel, so I don't know who said it, Rome Foam said, if he doesn't play the kids, he cops criticism. When he does, he gets criticised. So some fans are never going to be happy. So you just got to go with it, I suppose.
No, fair. Well, Foggy Fulham says here, big up the panel in the chat. Keen to hear what your thoughts are on those Lloris comments about Levy before the final. I presume that's about them getting the watch or something like 4 days before the final. Look, I think, again, it's Hugo Lloris being a part of that excuse culture. You know, that was at Tottenham Hotspur, the excuse for not winning, the excuse for losing games and stuff like that. Again, it's just another excuse. I'm sorry, but how can be given a watch put you off for the Champions League final? I'm sorry, I'm not having it. It's just, because what drives me mad is they'll come out and moan that they're not getting paid enough or they're not getting enough in incentives. Then all of a sudden they do get one, and all of a sudden it stopped them winning the Champions League final. Ain't fucking having it from Hugo Lloris. It's weak, it's loserish, and it's an excuse, to be quite frank. We'll go around the panel, see what they think. I'm not saying any more on it.
Go on, Dave.
Sorry, go on, Drew. You go first. Go
on. If it's true, I'm not suggesting that it's an excuse, but it would just go to show even more how out of touch Daniel Levy is in certain areas or certain aspects of the culture of football. Like, I'm kind of with Hugo on this one. I don't see the point in giving a watch. Like, you do that after the fact. Do you know what I mean? You wait until the final's done and dusted. You don't give somebody something prior to it with a finalist thing on there, because I think it does suggest that there's an element, I don't know, not that you're not going to do it, but there's no belief there that you necessarily are going to do it. So I'm kind of, as I say, if he's actually using it as an excuse as to why they lost, then that's a different thing. But I just think the situation in itself, where he actually handed it out before the game anyway, just that screams just being out of touch to me. It just seems, it's just a little bit laughable, you know. The Leicester players didn't get their Lamborghinis before they won the league, did they? It just it makes no sense to me.
Almost like a good enough, like getting to the finals is good enough, and here you go.
Yeah, awful.
Look, for me, I think it's, I totally disagree with everything you said, Drew, and that's not being rude to you or anything.
No.
I go down the road of, look, a watch shouldn't affect you. I mean, it's probably what the sponsors did. It was probably pre-arranged. And they say plenty of people do, for plenty of matches, sponsors want to do something with you. So there's always something going to happen. Your mentality, if he's the club captain, he should have went up to Levy and said, listen, can we do this after the game? This is what Troy Deeney actually said yesterday in TalkSport, and I agree with what he says. He was part of the leadership group. He's calling out players like Harry Kane and Pochettino and some of that team, calling them having not a winning mentality. Well, where was his winning mentality when we were up at Newcastle getting spanked and he sat in the dressing room at halftime and didn't want to come out for the second half? When he sat in his arse. Where's his mentality?
That's
hang
one
on,
game.
Yeah, but no, where's his mentality as club captain when he should be standing up within the leadership group? Hugo Lloris is only doing this to sell a book. Why wait 4 years to say this?
Yeah.
Why not come out after the final? Why not come out before the book is said? All this is to do is to sell books and start. Someone said it's like a reaction. Hugo Lloris was part of this group. He's thrown everyone in that team under the bus.
Part of the group, he was leader.
Failures. And he's thrown everyone, and everyone can blame Daniel Levy and say what he wants. And we don't know what sponsorships people do before a Champions League final. I'm sure Liverpool players had the same. But he should have turned around and said, we got to concentrate on this match. If somebody gave me a watch before a final, it wouldn't bother me because my mentality would be on that match. I would say, thank you very much. Put it to one side. A watch shouldn't want you to win a football match. You shouldn't want to win a football match for you. You're a club captain. You stand up and you lead by example. Hugo Lloris never led by example. He hasn't led, not like Ledley King, not like other great captains of the past. They led by example. Hugo Lloris was part of an excuse culture that never, ever took responsibility for their failures. And it's always everybody else's fault, not mine.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. I think Hugo Lloris is. I tell you what, I wouldn't buy his book. I would buy Geller's book on about any other Spurs book, but Hugo Lloris, he can go and sod up, throw his book in the bin. It's really pissed me off by what he's come out with. It's really angered me.
Sounds like it. Yeah, no, I just bring up Drew's comment there, and I was going to say it myself too. Like, is this the same Hugo Lloris that was driving backwards on a one-way, pissed drunk at like 3 a.m. after winning the World Cup? And, so no, it just seems a lot of hypocrisy coming up from Hugo, and it's just funny how he waits to see on the other side of the pond to start doing all these controversial interviews and stuff. And like, where was that chest here? There was plenty of time in the media. Sky Sports did an interview where it's like, how come you're not playing? He's like, oh, I'm good here. I'm helping Vicario and everything. Well, he had a chance here to say it. So, no, I think Dermot nailed it on the head trying to sell books, So, I think it's a non-starter. So,
and anyway, the fact that he allowed Levy to come down and place them watches in there for them stinks of weak leadership anyway. Usually, a captain has a handle in that situation. Usually, they're a meeting with owners and the management trying to plan what's best for the team for the Champions League final, etc. I'm sure giving out watches would have come up at some point. Did Hugo Lloris stand up and say, no, that's not happening to after Champions League final? I doubt it. And he would have got wind of it that they were placed there before any of the teams even came in. He would have known that they were getting them. So I would question, what did you do, Hugo? Instead of blaming everybody else, look in the mirror and start blaming yourself. You quit on the team at Newcastle. I'm not having it. It stinks of weakling leadership. Sums up, Tottenham's dressing room since then, just looking for excuses for failure and stuff like that. I'm sick of it. There's much to blame as Daniel Levy and as Pochettino for not getting over the line. Looking for an excuse is just weak in my opinion. And again, it's firing shots at a club, that you gave 10, 11 years worth of service to for what reason? What purpose does it serve? It doesn't. It's absolute mind-boggling. Anyway, guys, Drew, how are you feeling today about today's match against Ipswich Town this weekend? They haven't secured a win yet this season, but some fans are concerned about Dr. Tottenham making an appearance. What's your take?
Do you know what? If it was an away game, there might be some apprehension, but it's at Tottenham. I can't, even with the injuries, I cannot see anything but a win. And if we don't, then this is going to be one of those games where, if we do end up losing and we start doing this whole win one, lose one, win one, lose one thing, then I think, you know, questions are going to start getting asked again. So I don't know, man. I would think, given their situation, given the fact that, yeah, as I say, it is at home, even away, I really don't think it should be a problem. Like, where are they? Bottom of the league or bottom three at least? It's got to be nothing but a convincing win for me today. It really can't be anything but a convincing win, especially leading into the international break. Last thing I need is a loss to the Farmers or the Tractor Boys, and then have to wait 2 weeks to, you know, for a result.
We'll never let it
again. And then who have we got? Who have we got when we get back? I bet it's one of those. Then we have like Man City or something.
Yeah, we're going into Man City and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We've got to win. I'm nothing but a win.
Paddy says, lads, please do not mention the words Tottenham and win. Christ, think of the fans and the children. I do agree with Drew, though. There's no excuses today for it. Like, you know, if they lose today, they're just going to have to take what's said about them. There's no excuses. But what I will say is, guys, though, it's not like Ipswich have been hockeyed off the pitch. They haven't. You know, they've got 4 draws. There's been a few games that they've lost late on due to silly mistakes and stuff like that. But they are competing, you know. They are competing. They're doing well. They're just not getting over the line. Maybe that's the inexperience, Sean. But I'm not sure it's going to be as easy as many people are expecting today. I worry about our backline. But in the midfield and going forward, I do think we should have enough.
Well, they got a decent amount of players out as well, didn't they? I don't know. I feel like they're a little bit disjointed. I think Calvin Phillips not being in the middle of the park means it's easier to get through the midfield as opposed to having to walk around the big bastard every time. But I don't know, man. I really like Delap as well. The guy up front. I think he's on loan from City, isn't he? Unless they actually bought him, I don't know. But
they buy him. I thought they bought him, though.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you, to be honest. But yeah, he's a kid for the last couple of years. I've always had my eye on and felt like he's a real good kid. So I don't know, man. We should have enough, man. I'm not having it. I can't think of anything other than a win. Otherwise, I'll start drinking, and it's way too early to start drinking.
Have an Irish coffee or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go and grab a coffee. It might be Irish by the time I get back. I'll see you in a sec.
No worries. Dermo, surely, you know, look, Spurs have a chance to move to 3rd today in the Premier League, right? If results go our way. Ipswich, you know, they haven't won a game. Yes, we've got a growing injury crisis, but surely anything less than 3 points here would be a disaster, right? And it would probably likely add more pressure on top of Postecoglou from the fans if we don't win today.
Yeah, it would be from some sections of the fan. Delap was a transfer in, by the way. They did get him from Ipswich. Just check that. Look, yeah, today's a guaranteed win. I mean, today's the day you know we're going to win, but you also know Crystal Palace didn't win a game all season and they beat us, but this is at home. So let's take care of business. Let's take care of the business today. Let's put out of our heads what the other teams are doing. Let's just concentrate on us and 3 points. And if the results go away, we finish 3rd. We're above the Gunners. Hey, presto, brilliant. Absolutely lovely jubbly. But look, today's a no-brainer. We should be winning this 4-5-0. It's Ipswich Town, for Christ's sake. It's not Man City or Liverpool or any other top team. This is a team from Suffolk that know how to drive tractors, not win football matches. So let's go out there today, sow a few seeds, get a bit of corn and get a bit of hay in, and just strike when the iron's hot. I think we're going to win 4-5-0 today.
Look, this could be famous last words by me, but we should be beating Ipswich Town, and we should be beating them comfortably. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, it's not going to be easy today, but we have a massive opportunity to climb that table, head into the international break full of confidence, on a high. And my God, they better take this. But Donovan K32 says, you can be sure that Ipswich have already discussed about the fragile Spurs mentality. So, you know, they're probably going to come in today. They're probably going to feel like they could get us. He's right, you know, with the mentality. You're never really out of the game, as proven by some other teams against Tottenham this season. Are you concerned about that?
Yeah, I mean, you have to be. Like, we haven't given ourselves pretty much anything to stand on, any solid foot to stand on. But like, that's the whole thing. I'm just trying to change, And brilliant by the lads so far. 3 out of 4 of us saying, "Hey, yeah, we have to go out and win," and there's nothing wrong with that. That's part of winning. That's building that elite mentality of you don't think City go out there and crap themselves, going to go play against an IPSWICH, like you go out there and you go out there and get this stuff done. So, yeah, there's levels to this game, and IPSWICH, I want to call them tractor boys because I don't know anything about their heritage or whatnot, but they are a lesser football club, and that's okay to say because Tottenham Hotspur have established themselves as a Premier League entity for the last 40, 50 years. So we're levels above it. We need to go out and win, and we need to assert ourselves as champions. But you asked me there, Dave, how do we battle that? First 10 minutes, first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you put a goal in, and you let that crowd not die because that crowd is amazing, and that crowd is probably the best football crowd in London. So they get behind the boys, and you give them an excuse not to stop cheering for all 90 minutes, and send those boys packing. Because believe it or not, some of them guys are going to be loving that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. They're going to be caught up in they haven't played in a facility that nice before, and seeing that many people, and so they can be shell shocked and gun shy, and they will play inside themselves quicker than anything if we press and we stay on them and we do what we need to do. You talked about, and lastly, you talked about a while ago, Dave, how you what was it? I think it was the Carabag game. We were all talking, and you mentioned there's no point giving them, don't give them respect, don't give them a chance to grow into the game. That's the only time they'll have problems, and that's the same thing tonight. Yeah, the Premier League team, honor that in the handshake and before the game, but that's it. Don't give them anything to build off of, any second balls, anything in the box. Vicario needs to be commanding. Our passes out of the back need to be sure. They need to be touch tight. And we have to keep the ball moving fast. None of this slowing the ball down and letting the defense get back in a position and get behind the ball. With our best when we play 1-2 touch in and out. And next thing you know, we saw it against West Ham, or no, not West Ham, Aston Villa. They're looking at each other because 3 goals went in, and the bloody subs didn't even come on yet. So we have power in our boots to kill teams. So now we have to show it today.
No, 100%. We got to be absolutely devastating going forward. The Belgian Hotspur, big up, man. Joris, good to see you. Says, I'm amazed how confident you are considering we've all been Spurs fans for so long. And look, I fully get the point you're trying to make. Look, if this is away from home, I would say, yeah, there's probably a bad feeling inside of me that Dr. Tottenham could turn up today. But to be fair, at home this season, the only game we've dropped points in is Arsenal. The rest of them we've absolutely won. So the home pitch is a bit of a fortress, and that's why I'm very confident coming in today. When you look at our pitch, when we play on our pitch, we've got so much space. I think it helps our game. I think it's when we go away from home and play on other pitches that maybe isn't as wide, isn't as long, I think is where we sort of come into trouble a little bit. But at home, we've got a very good record, and that's what leads to my confidence. But not only that, Belgium, we have a chance to head into the international break inside the top 3 or inside the top 4 in the Premier League. 3 out of 4 wins in the Europa League in years gone by where we've been embarrassed by some of the teams we've bet. And then also in the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, it really wouldn't be a bad place to go into, when you've got the Christmas period coming up. It sort of gives you that want to fight during the Christmas period because you've got success on the periphery. So hopefully, we can take that opportunity today heading into the international break. And Kate, I think it was Kate Rickson earlier on mentioned when Spurs usually have these opportunities, to make ground on teams, is usually when they let you down, which is my biggest fear today. But hopefully we get over the line, we get the win, and we head into the international break in a nice calm period where we can talk about how Tottenham move forward, rather than the last one where we were talking about should we keep Ange Postecoglou in charge or not. So hopefully we take that opportunity today. But Drew, there has been plenty of questions around Tottenham's consistency this season, especially with the noticeable contrast between the home and away form. However, Spurs head into this fixture on a solid run with 9 wins in their last 13 matches since mid-September, showing greater consistency across competitions. Do you think the recent struggles this team is fighting? Sorry. Do you think, despite recent struggles before, do you think that this team is finding its rhythm under Postecoglou now, or are there still crucial areas that need improvement to maintain the level of consistency? And I don't want to make everyone jealous, but I'm still here. I'm just going to turn off my camera and eat a rasher sandwich that my missus just handed to me. So don't get jealous.
I think there's still a couple of areas that I'm still a little concerned with.
What ones?
I think
What areas?
I think overall I think the squad's a little bit stronger. I'm concerned that if Vicario injured himself, we'd be screwed. I think as good as Ben Davies has been, I think there's an issue left back, left centre back, which I think we all know about. And I'm still not convinced we couldn't do with somebody. See, this is the thing, and this is the thing with Tottenham, and seems to be the problem all the time, is that we get a decent starting 11, and then it's hard to then figure out where you put somebody else, because I think we could do with somebody in midfield with, I don't know, a little bit more experience, like a 26, 27, 28-year-old that's kind of been there and done it. But then that means either like that should be Maddison, but I just don't think he has been there and done it enough. I don't know, who would you then replace, you know? Like, I think we could do with a better six than Bentancur. I mean, I think Bentancur's good, but I don't see what other people see. Like, I feel like the stats suggest that he loses possession, and when he does lose possession, it's pretty detrimental, because where he loses it is in a part of the field where you really don't want to lose it. So
Are you on about Bentancur or Bissouma?
Yeah, I'm on about Bentancur. I mean, I don't think Bissouma's much better. I mean, I think
Bentancur, from the stats I read, has a 92.4% pass completion rate in the games he's played this year, and made 11 interceptions in that role.
See, and the stats that I think the stats that I looked at, they say, yeah, he's very good, but also he's being dispossessed almost twice as much as anybody else in that position.
Okay.
So
it's handball in it, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess that it may be handball. I mean, there's maybe something you just have to concede, but I don't know, man. I think there's got to be. I'm hesitant to question Ange, because, as I say, you know, he's been there and done it, and I haven't. But I don't know, man. I question sometimes how strong our midfield is when it's being put under pressure. Like, it's all well and good, like when we're going forward and it's free flowing, and you know, we're playing a team that doesn't quite match our intensity. Yeah, it looks wonderful. But the problem for me is that when it does break down, it seems to, as quickly as we can go from 0 to 100, we can go from 100 back to 0. Like, there doesn't seem to be any kind of midway point or balance whereby somebody steps up and starts shouting at people and tells people to get their fucking act together. And I think we missed that type of player. I just don't. I look at our squad and I don't see anybody out there that does that. And I know we've touched on it before, and you know, we've talked about, you know, there's no, you know, the Roy Keane types and all that sort of thing. I just don't really think you get that many players. I just don't think there's that type of player out there anymore. It doesn't seem to be. It kind of gets coached out of them. You know, you've just got to be in a position. You've got to do this. Yeah, I just that's my concern, is that we don't seem to have anybody that will just tell everybody else to calm the fuck down for a minute. But yeah, like I say, I'm not quite sure where you play them if you had them.
Who do you put that down to? Do you put it down to someone like Daniel Levy, who doesn't want to sign players 28, 29, 30 years of age, you know, players that have been there and done it, you know? It's notorious that you'd rather sign younger players that have sell-on fees and stuff like that. Or do you put it down to Postecoglou not maybe wanting to work with these guys? Who do you put it down to?
I mean, I would say a little bit of that, a little bit of the other, and it's probably Levy wanting to recoup money. It's probably maybe Postecoglou feeling like he has less of an ability to put his impression on them. And also, I think if you look over the last 10, 15 years, the players that have been there and done it are typically players that have been at championship teams. And the only chance you've got of prizing those players away from those teams is if they get old and past it and those teams don't want them anymore. Because let's face it, I mean, if Manchester City, Chelsea and Liverpool have been the teams that have constantly been there and done it over the last 10 or 15 years, how do you then get the players from those teams because they don't want to come to Tottenham? Do you know what I mean? Or if they do come to Tottenham, they're kind of a bit past it because they've let them go because they're already further along in their progress and they've already got somebody replacing them. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of all of them. Yeah, I'm not sure how you get a player that's been there and done it.
You know what? I think there is opportunities. You look at Brighton, for instance. They pick up James Milner when he was leaving Liverpool. You know, he walks into that. All the youngsters in the dressing room, straight away, they're all looking at him. He knows how to prepare to be able to win things, you know, for games, right? Stuff like that. You know, and he just leading by example. I do think we need a player like that, you know, for instance. But then you look at United, they brought Casemiro in. Didn't work out in that regard. He didn't go in there and straighten out their dressing room for them. But I do think that's more down to United, you know, as a club, right? Every player that seems to go there seems to be useless. But for me,
do you not think there'd be criticism as well if we did go? Let's say we did go out and sign James Milner. I mean, I'm not sure we needed James Milner at the time, but let's just say we had gone out and got him. You not believe half the fan base would have been like, "What are you doing, Levy? This is typical Tottenham. This is, well, you know, we're buying a free agent who's 36 years old." Blah 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 blah. Like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't on so many counts.
In the summer, that definitely would have happened. That definitely would have happened. What you're talking about. I think now, the fact that many people see the lack of leadership on the pitch, the lack of leadership in maybe in and around the dressing room, the fact that Postecoglou's pointed out constantly as well after some of these defeats, I do think now fans will be more inclined to really understand it and understand why we're trying to do it. But I do think, to your point, in the summer, that definitely would have happened for sure. So if I'm correct, just before we move on, Drew, then, so you still think in order for us to sort of maintain this sort of form, there's little bits we need to do in the January transfer window, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if we could do some stuff in January, I mean, I read a report that says if there's a goalkeeper available in January to challenge Vicario, then they'd go for him if that's possible, which I think would be fantastic because we've just, you know, we've realised that our backup keeper is obviously terrible, and the two backups to his backup have just not had any consistent playing time. I'd also consider. I just don't. There's no money for it, but I think you need another striker now. I think if Richie's going to keep collapsing the way he is, I think if he's got a dodgy hamstring now and he's going to break down between now and the end of the season another 2 times, I think you need to think about that. And I think that is arguably probably more necessary than a left-sided centre back at this point. Because I think you could probably work with Davies and Spence if he comes back just to cover that side, just for now. But yeah, I'm concerned that up top we're going to start. If we start losing bodies, we're going to have a real issue. If Johnson breaks down, who's going to play on the right? Do you know what I mean? I think we need another body up top.
We're already tight up front, you know. I think Son and Johnson are the only fit wingers right now. Richarlison's out, so means that we're down to only Solanke and Lancashire. So we are really tight across the front line right now. So much that we had to bring young Williams from the under-18s with us, you know, to Europe Thursday night, if just in case we needed that extra cover. So we are sort of you know, we are tight in the forward areas right now. But I do think, you know, I do agree with you. Come January, I would like to see us maybe bring in another defender. We didn't learn our lessons from last season where we end up having to play fullbacks at centre-backs. We're nearly at that point already. We're already playing Davies who's a natural fullback inside at centre-back. So there are little things we do need to do in January, I agree, to and give more pieces of the puzzle to be able to try and help kick this on and maintain some sort of consistency. Dermot, where are you at with that conversation, my man?
Look, for me, I think, look, once our midfield is playing, I think Bentancur is probably the better out of Basuma and himself, in my opinion. I thought he's been playing very well. Kulu, for me, he's been running that midfield. He really has. And once he's on full flow, there's someone better than him. But what worries me is we haven't got the cover for a left back, a right back, or up front. And I agree with you, we do need a striker. I do agree with that. But if Johnson was to probably get injured, you probably push Kulu to the right, which is where you don't want him to be. But that's where you probably would put Kulu. And then you probably put Basuma or Sarr in that midfield. Because with the midfield, we cannot play with 2 number 10s in our midfield. It doesn't work. So you need a 6, an 8, and a 10. That's balance.
Are you completely right now? 2 number 10s in midfield, Darmo. You completely even against you just
yeah, I mean, look, it just doesn't work. And if once we need to do that, but look, today shouldn't be so much of a problem. And I think we need another goalkeeper. I've always said we should have gone for Bazuna or the Irish goalkeeper from Liverpool. I know they both want first team football, but that would be putting pressure on Vicario. That's what you want. You want players putting pressure on your first team as I want your spot. At least if he has to step in, we know these players, especially Kelly up at Liverpool, he has the experience of playing first team football. And players also, when they look at clubs and when they do move, the first thing they look at is, are they in the Champions League? And if you're not in the Champions League, it's very hard to buy any player because he wants to play in the top competition. And that's why some of these players don't want to come to Tottenham, because we're not in the Champions League. When we're in the Champions League, everyone was tripping over themselves, wanted to come to play for us. So I think that's got a lot to do with it as well. And it's about, once we get to the Champions League, it's like more pulling power. If you're in the Europa League, they're thinking, yeah, might go there. If you're in the Conference League, you haven't got a bloody hope in hell. But if you're in the Champions League, they think, okay, they're in the Champions League. They've done quite well. Okay, I'll go there. And it's all to do with money as well at the end of the day. If you're willing to pay the money, they'll come. The money merchants, players are selfish. It's all about the money for them. It's a short career. They want to make as much money as they can in the 10 or 12 years to get as a player. So I think a lot of factors go into one sort of big pot, and it stirs it around. And I think that's my opinion. What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Donovan, up there to Dave's question? Do you agree with Drew, or do you think he's got a point? Do you think I have a point, or do you agree with people in the chat? Where's your views on it?
Yeah, first of all, I think just touching on the 6 because we brought it up. I think that just has to do with Angeball. Like, I think honestly, Bentancur is probably one of the best in class in his position. What he does on the ball, he's so silky, he advances the ball so well. I can see what he brings to the game opposed to Basuma. Like, don't get me wrong, Basuma can shimmy and he can pivot on the half turn, and he really does a good job on his day of taking the pressure on his back and advancing the ball. But Bentancur's got that grit. He runs. He feels like he's actually running and can participate in the game. Basuma, is like that suave kind of like really, I don't know how to put it, like that mentality of like, it seems as if he's almost not even trying. But to touch on what you were saying there earlier, Drew, is that that lack of leadership and that lack.
Sorry, guys, can you hear me? Because my internet went there. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Donovan, go on.
Oh no, it's all good, mate. I think you touched a big point there, Drew, and it's like we do have that lack of leadership and I think that has to go why our short list had so many players of like the Joshua Kimmiches and the Gallaghers and the Paulinas that could come in and really dictate play and be that presence in the locker room and on the field. Because don't get me wrong, as good as our team looks some days, I think we can still hear you, Dave. As good as our team looks, don't get me wrong, it's so nice to like, well, what if we had like a worldie in midfield? Like, what if we had like a Toni Kroos level player? Like, what if we had a Modric level player? What if we had somebody in there that was a 9 out of 10, every match week and could dictate a game from midfield. And we don't really have that. So we are still lacking here and there. But to touch on what you were saying there, Dermo, like I think, ironically enough, I think today's game actually would be the perfect game to have two number 10s in, because two number 10s do work. But I do agree with you in the fact that like it's too open against teams of equal or greater caliber than us. Yeah. We need a team that's going to sit lower. We need a team that's going to be harder to break down. That helps us battle that low block. Now that we've added Dominic Solanke, he really takes up a lot of space in that box, drawing the attention of an actual number 9. And now that we have the creative outlet, the two outlets right there, it just causes so much havoc. You know, how many times do we see Papa Madasar get played in? And we need that little bit of technical ability. We need somebody to be able to flip it or do a back heel or something, you know, and we just don't have that. But when we have Madison and Kulu in there, they have no idea to come short, to come long. They both have long shots in their locker. And once you get them scrambling, people are sliding, it opens up space. And I think today would be a good opportunity to use those two number 10s. So I think that pretty much covers that. But I'm expecting good things today. So whatever happens, I think we have to be the bigger team and assert ourselves, because there's no way we should be dropping points today.
No, I mean, Drew, look, you go on that. We need to buy somebody up front, in the front tree. Where are you looking at that? Which areas are you looking at we need to back up in January? And is there any other position in January, do you think? I mean, we do need another centre back after Wednesday, after Rudu's the performance on Wednesday. Do you feel we need cover back there as well in January, or are you just thinking we just need to do the bare minimum and leave the rest of the summer? Can't hear you. You're on mute, man. You're on mute, man.
I mean, this is Tottenham, right? We're never going to go out and buy exactly what we need, because that's just not the way we operate. So, and I just don't. I'm hesitant to say, based on the back of even 1, 2, or 3 performances, that we need another centre back because Radu's terrible. Like he's had a few bad games. I'm not, you know, let's call a spade a spade. But I don't want to, go back to the Joel Johnson thing. But we've all been there with players where they go through rough patches, or they don't have, they've not played good for a few games. Like, I think the dude has got enough to be able to come good, and I would be hesitant to waste another 20, 30 million on another centre back, because that's then going to block the progress. Unless you're telling me, unless we're all in agreement, I know I say all, I mean the club as well, that Radu's just not here, and we can get our money back, and we can get him out the door and get another player in. And we all know that football just doesn't work like that. This isn't Football Manager or FIFA. You can't just go and do this sort of thing. Like, there's lots of hoops that need to be jumped through. So I would be more inclined to give that kid a pass and just, stick with him, because I think, with the way, with what's happened to Richie now, let's say Solanke got injured today, or Solanke gets injured against Man City, we are screwed. We are more screwed if Solanke gets injured and Richie's already out than we are with Radu getting turned, more often than he should be. Like, at least Radu's there. At least he's available. What's the best ability? Availability. The dude, I mean, apart from a rash red card, I mean, he's been available every time he's been asked to come on. So I've got no problem with him. He's an extra body, and he'll suffice for now. I got concerns. I know Mikey Moore was a virus, but you've got Sonny, who's been carrying issues. You've got Timo Werner. All right, people say that we play with 10 players when he's playing anyway. That's fair enough. He's another body. Now he's injured. But, if Johnson were to get injured, like, I don't, where do the goals come from at that point? Because Johnson, Solanke, and Son are about the only 3 scoring. So
I mean,
yeah, man.
with the Rudu thing, I wasn't calling out Rudu. I was just making a point that we do need cover for centre back because Ben Davies is never going is probably gone at the end of the season. He's out of contract, and if Romero does go to Real Madrid, which is a likely destination for him, which I don't hope it doesn't. If it does, you're going to need cover for centre back because Van der Ven's hamstring keeps going. You don't know when that's going to go. So you do need cover for the back four. You need cover for, I think, the left back as well for Porro and your doggy. So
Yeah,
you
fair
can't
play.
we're playing Gray out there. Sorry.
I just wonder
Gordon, I'm just if you get in another centre back, you're then blocking Vuskovic. Vuskovic, and you're also blocking Ashley Phillips, and you're also blocking Dorrington. So you've got to be careful with the way that the squad is balanced. I think there's a situation there's this little grey area where we've got the players now and we've got the players in the future, but we don't quite have anything to bridge that gap. And I'm concerned that if you start bringing in players, you then start pushing very promising players further down the pecking order.
I think across the back line, I think they're probably waiting for Ben Davies to go in this summer, and that frees them up to bring one more body in there, maybe a centre back plus the likes of Vuskovic plus Ashley Phillips, Dorrington. I think Drew was right. I do think it is one they're trying to weigh up, and I don't think they want to drop or they want to block someone like Vuskovich's Pat, who has been phenomenal out on loan. I also question, is he going to come in here and play as a centre midfielder? Is he going to come in here and play as that big colossus number 6 that everyone's looking for? I think he has that ability. He's got a good passing range on him as well. But yeah, I sort of agree with Drew. It's a bit of a tricky one. I think they'll wait for Ben Davies. I think probably be an agreement that they're going to part ways with Ben Davies and Tottenham at the end of the season, and they'll use that wages then to reinvest in another player in that position. But guys, before we want to move on and talk about Radu Draxler, because it is a conversation I want to have. It's a conversation me and the Outland had for about 2 hours the other night. Where he was telling me, Dave, don't write him off too soon. And I was like, look, I'm not writing him off, but there's things I see in his game where I question long-term, can he get ahead of Romero and Van der Ven? But before we get into that, I want to know what your guys' thoughts is. Drew, you sort of touched on it earlier on. And we'll start with Donovan and work our way backwards this time. But Tottenham have struggled to play out from the back this season when facing teams that press high and bring that physical edge on us. As seen in the second half against Brighton as well as against Crystal Palace and Galatasaray. In these situations, Spurs often find it difficult to string passes together to break out of their own half. I want to know, should Postecoglou consider tweaking their approach temporarily to relieve the pressure and get the team up the pitch, for instance? If you notice centre midfielders like Palace, like Galatasaray are just continuously coming in right up behind us, start hitting the challenge. You got wingers for a reason. Put it in behind, let them win a throw and get you up the pitch and then play in their half. Or is Postecoglou right to persist with the style of play, inviting that press and asking these players to still continue to play through it? We start with Drew Donovan and work our way around.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating, some of these games where you look up and you just see it's like a 2, 3, and then just a 5. Like you invert the wingers. I mean, the fullbacks, I get it, but it doesn't work when they're high pressing and you got like 5 guys marking 3 players, and then plus the goalie, you can pick the pass back, and next thing you know, you're playing out of our back and we're in the corner flag, and then you get someone like Romero, world-class player, but dinking the ball over his own 16-yard, 18-yard box away from home in front of their end, suicide ball to Van de Ven. So I do see how maybe tweaking it a little bit could be, but I think Dominic Solanke provides something new we have this season where we actually have a player that we can just loof it up to and almost do route one stuff when it actually sticks. I take it back to that Arsenal game against City a year and a half ago when they were on the title charge and he needs to go to the Emirates and they need to go to the Etihad and get a result. And that was their first goal. Ederson just lopped it up to Holland. Holland takes it down, plays a one-touch pass into De Bruyne. Everyone knows what happens next. And sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes you can't play this beautiful football. You do have to take the route one pass. You do have to get it up to your striker. And Dominic Solanke is amazing. Like, he's strong, he's physical, he's confident. And he's a lot better at dribbling the ball than I thought he was. I thought he was just going to be there, a fox in the box. The guy's got class. You can tell he was a. You can tell he's one of the guys that got a growth spurt late because he was probably a winger or something when he was younger, and he developed that technical ability on the ball. So yeah, I think don't be cute with it. But that being said, we did see that against Manchester City, where we were under the cosh there for about 20, 30 minutes in that second half. And we did see Vicario just pushing everybody up. And I think it was the last 4 or 5 goal kicks were long. So it is good to see that we're starting to change it up. It's not so rigid anymore. But it's not sustainable to do it every single time, that's for sure.
No, 100%. And I just think when you look at the games we've struggled in and we've lost, recently, Brighton, Palace, Galatasaray, they all sort of done the same thing where they pressed us nice and high, got the midfielders up nice and high. So as soon as we pop that into midfield, we're not in space to get turned. All of a sudden, they're taking the ball off us and they're straight on our goal. That can't keep continuing to happen because that will lead to the inconsistencies. We have to come up with a new way of playing out from that. Whether you stop going into midfield and you start looking to hit your wing backs, your wingers, or straight into your front man, like you said. But if we're under that relentless pressure, it's just madness to keep doing the same thing to give the opposition ball back. There's other ways around it without deviating from your philosophy. Go deeper into the pitch, higher up the pitch, drag your team up, and then once you're in there half, then you play. There's different ways of going about it. Just quickly, Dark Sung G says, I hope January comes so we can use Yang. He's gone for a 3-0 win. Yeah, look, we could definitely do it. Some wingers in at this point, Dark Sung G. But I'm going to put a question to you, and I want to know, look, I know you're going to answer me, honestly, to be fair, without any bias, but is he good enough to come in and make an impact in January from the off, Dark Sung G? Or is he going to need, 6 months to acclimatise? Please let me know on that, my man. And he also says, Dom is the first player we spent big on. That is A+. Do you know what? He seems like the first one we spent big on in a while, actually. You're correct. Richarlison didn't work out in our favour. And Ndombele didn't work out in our favour. Celso didn't work out in our favour. But you are correct. I'm too hesitant. I'm too hesitant to call it now. We've got a long way to go. But so far, he looks like a very, very shrewd acquisition, a very shrewd piece of business, Dark Sung G. Long may it continue. But please answer my question on Yang. Is he good enough to come in and make an impact immediately? Or does he need time to acclimatise? But Dermo, same question that we were speaking about onto you, my man.
Look, so it's nice. It's nice to play out from the back and play pretty sexy football, as they call it. But sometimes you do have to go route one, and sometimes you got to mix it up a little bit. And we don't. We always try to play it, and that's Postecoglou's way. Play it out from the back. I don't want any route one stuff, and that's down to the manager. That's how he wants the team to play, and that's how we learn his ways, and it's the way we are. But I do agree with you. When we get pressed, like on Wednesday, we panic. We need somebody there with a little bit of composure, a little bit of experience. Right, lads, just calm down. We can do this. Get into your positions, and we can bypass this. You can bypass a high press. You can do it. It's been done. But sometimes route one is not a bad option, just to mix it up a little bit. So that's for me. That's all I could say really on it, Dave. Donovan really sort of covered all of it, what I was going to say. So, but I think mixing up, we should do. But if we want to learn to play Ange way, I think we stick with it. And you can bypass a high press. It can be done. So I think it's about the playing mentality, to play a technical as well, and the players' experience on the ball. And once they get more used to it, once we play it, once we do it more, and once we get around it, say by the end of the middle of this season, the end of this season, start of next season, we should be well drilled into it, and we should have no problems.
No, 100%. And Drew, let me ask you, does it come down to leadership a little bit, or is it fully on Ange Postecoglou? Because if I'm on that football pitch, at some point, I'm turning around to Ange Postecoglou, I'm turning around to other players, saying we've got to try and do something different here to get out, rather than keep just playing into the same trap. Does that come down to leadership as well?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything, right? You would expect. I mean, the definition of insanity is trying something over and over and expecting different results, right? So I don't know how that can be. That should be applied to football as well. Like, If you're doing something and it's constantly coming back to bite you, then change your tactics. And this is the one thing, and I don't know whether in my head this is a Tottenham thing, because Tottenham are my team and I spend the majority of my time watching Tottenham, and so therefore it's only prevalent to Tottenham. I don't know whether every fan maybe goes through this, but it does, just to touch on what I said earlier, it does seem like when we're on it, but when everything starts to fall apart, everybody starts to fall apart.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like a couple of players lose their touch. It's like everybody all of a sudden looks like a deer in the headlights.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that comes from. Like, everybody seems to shy away. Nobody wants to look anybody else in the eye and start telling people what they're supposed to be doing. And as I say, I don't know whether that's just a thing. You just don't get that in players anymore, whether because they're all so pally with each other, nobody wants to dig one another out. Like, you would expect that Romero would say more than he does. And I know there's this whole, lead by example, blah, 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 blah. And that's fine. That's all well and good. Like, go out there. And I can understand it when it was, I could see more of Harry Kane leading by example by just going out and just running himself into the ground, scoring a couple of goals and dragging us through a game. With Romero, he's supposed to be like, well, I don't know if he's supposed to be, but he comes across as this real stern, get stuck in. Like, the dude is happy to run 2/3 of the length of a pitch to go through somebody and injure himself. Like, he'll do that sort of thing. But when you want a cool head that's just sitting on the 18-yard box, just telling everybody to close, just shut up shop for a minute, I don't see that in him. And I just think that's the component that I feel like is missing. I don't ever see anybody saying, Maddison, you go there. Kulu, you sit there. Sit on your man. Don't let him get past you for a couple minutes. I don't see any of that. And I just don't know. I don't know what you do to combat that.
It's impossible to stop, right, isn't it? Like, if you've got nobody that can step up in that moment, it's just going to keep coming one way. It's almost impossible to stem that flow, right?
Right. And I just, as I say, I just don't see that happen. I don't see that happen with other teams. And I don't know, as I say, whether it's because I don't watch other teams enough, or whether it's just that is what Spursy is. I don't know. But it always seems to be us. We are always the team where when one person's head goes, everybody's head goes. We always seem to be the team that has a player come out after a bad defeat and say, oh, fans, we're so sorry. We should play harder for the Bears. I don't see any other team's players coming out and apologizing because they put on a shit performance. So, to go back to your question, I'm not sure. Is there an argument that Postecoglou could do a bit more from the sidelines? Yes, but these are 11 grown-ass men on a football pitch that should be able to figure it the fuck out,
Problem solving.
Conte said that too. Like, we don't want to play under pressure, man. That's the biggest thing. Angelo has that pressure. Like, he alluded to himself. It's like we invite so much pressure on ourselves so we can beat our man, and then it's like 8v11. Or we're always a man advantage going forward because we've built that pressure. But you touched there, Drew, on the fact of like, well, why does it happen when one person gets a deer in the headlights and another person gets a deer in the headlights and it's contagious? Well, when you play under that much pressure and you get a shit pass and you have to do that extra foot step to get into it, that puts you off. And then that's like passing the baton onto the next player. And then he plays a shit pass back. And next thing you know, being those shit passes, it's a complete lack of composure, and then the whole formation starts going off, and next thing you know, there's more space opening up, and a goal inevitably comes from it. Conte even said it to himself, like, this club, this Dios, it stinks. It does. Nobody wants to play under pressure, and that's the big thing Ange is trying to change, right from the bottom to the top. So sorry, Dave, but what were you going to say there, man?
No, I agree with you. I know some people sometimes think I'm crazy or, stuff like that, but that's something I've pointed out for a long time at Tottenham Hotspur. Once you see 1, 2, 3 passes off the back of each other going astray, one after another, you know what's coming at Tottenham Hotspur. And, you know, people say, oh, Dave, that's crazy to say, but I've seen it happen so many times. You know, if you make 3 passes off the back of it, we end up crumbling. And you just know everybody's off it. And plus, when I see that, I know we're going to lose the game because you don't have any leaders to stand up. You know, in dressing rooms, it's very important nowadays that you have someone that stands up and knows the dressing room. You know, if the player's not pulling his weight, there's 2 things you either do. You go over there and you bollock them, or you put your arm around them. But as a leader in the dressing room, you already know how to handle that player. Some players respond when you bollock them, lay down the challenge. They get angry. They put that into their game. They play a new game. Some people, you got to put your arm around and say, look, forget it. I know you're nervous. Forget about it. You're a good player, you know, and stuff like that. Just do the basics. Play your way back into the game. We don't have anybody doing it. I really felt sorry for Bergvall the other night. The guy's running around like a headless chicken. No one giving him any direction. No one going over putting their arm around him. They could see he was struggling. But, you know, no one wanted to do it. But when our leaders are struggling, why would they step up? It's just, it feels like to me, everybody at Tottenham is still a bit out for themselves rather than, you know, for the team. I think if there was players for the team, you would naturally, then players would step up. Also, a question. How much do we hate losing at Tottenham? I'm not being funny, but if I'm losing, at some point I'm going to step up and I'm going to lose my rag. I'm going to start calling people out, holding, like, you know, I think in modern day football, it's all about forget it. We dust ourselves down. We move on. Don't sit there and focus on the mistake. But I'm sorry, sometimes the only way of improving is by calling someone out in front of people so that they get it. Okay, this can't happen again. I don't want to be in this situation. I think we've got far too much of a really, really nice dressing room. We don't have them leaders that are going to step up in the moment. Like, for instance, why couldn't Maddison step up the other night? Tell one of the centre-backs, stop putting it into midfield. You can see they're on us. Go into one of the wingers. Go into Dom Solanke. Didn't do it. You know, Ben Davies could have stepped up. Went and pulled Radu Dragusin and said, look, for the next 5 minutes, tuck in here. Don't bother touching the ball because it's making you more and more nervous. Just for 5 minutes, just to ease yourself into the game. Didn't happen. We just watched Radu Dragusin make mistake after mistake after mistake. Fraser Forrester didn't even bother, you know, trying to communicate. He can see everything in front of him. He can see the whole picture. He's got to be realizing that and saying, okay, well, this is what I'm seeing. They're coming at us in the middle. Let's start going out to the fullbacks. Let's start hitting them out wide. That's where the space is. There's no communication on the football pitch. You see us getting beaten at the back post every single week. It's coming down the left, over to the far side to the right. Porro comes inside. Players are standing there watching other players tap the ball home. Again, comes down to leadership. One moves, scream. I mean, playing Sunday League, for instance, if I was on a set piece or, you know, I seen someone free, if you've got someone, you scream. You look around, find who's not marking, you scream for them to go over and mark. None of that happens at Tottenham Hotspur. And I think it's a huge problem. Like, the other night could have easily been sorted out very quickly within 5-10 minutes if some leaders just stood up and grabbed the situation by the horns and started dishing out, you know, instructions and stuff like that. But nobody wanted to do it. I look at that and I think it's a team that are okay to hide behind that manager, quite frank. I think they're okay to let him take all the questions, all the blame for defeats, because if they weren't, someone would have stood up by now. You know, you're talking, it happened at Brighton, it happened at Palace. You're sitting there looking at Galatasaray and you're like, any of them Spurs players fed up with this? Any of them going to open their mouth?
You know what's funny though? You know what's funny though, Davo? You said that, you say that, and I totally agree, because like and you too, Drew, you're saying like what is it? Like it happens, it's inevitable. But I've seen those exact qualities and those traits that we're looking for. Not necessarily a hard man, but a player that can put his shoulders back and start pointing and telling. I've seen glimpses of it from Archie Gray. And how sad is it that that's one of our youngest players, brand new players to this club, and he's already starting to, like, you know, yeah, we all love Sonny and everything, putting his arm around him and little broing him and stuff, but you can already tell he's kind of just like shrugging it off and like, hey, you know, like, I'm here to win. I'm here to go. I'm not here to make these Instagram videos. I'm not here to do these TikToks or whatever the hell he does. He's there to win football matches. And that comes from a winning pedigree of family that helped keep Leeds United through those glory years, right? From his grandfather to his dad. And so, yeah, it's too young to call on a player like that now. But I definitely see those aspirations and those leadership qualities in a player like him at such a young age. So I think he's hopeful. I think he's a good person to invest in and keep playing. I heard Leicester's in for him this summer or this January. They want to get him on loan. They can have our rejects, but they're not going to have our stars, man. We can keep Archie Gray for ourselves. So, but no, I just thought it's funny how Archie Gray is already showing those leadership opportunities, and he's such a young and new member to the squad. So hopefully, just that goes to our recruitment team. Hopefully, that's Blanche making positive impacts. You know, whoever's the signing off on these players and doing the data now, they're hitting. Brendan Johnson's hitting. Solanke's hitting. Vicario, is floppy some hands and whatever, and he can improve, but his shot stopping is world class. So now that we have the pieces and we're starting to build together, who knows, guys? Maybe in January we do get that leader mentality or that leadership. Who knows? We don't historically make moves in January, but Bentancur and Kulusevski came in January. We still have another transfer window in the summer. But it's clear to see we are lacking leadership, and that does have to come from outside the club because there's no one there right now that can take the bull by the horns and just kind of lead us. And it's sad to say because we are such a good football club, and we have one of the best stadiums and infrastructure in the world. And it's so. I was listening to those old people, not old people, respect them, but our old legends talk about the club and how they would like. What's that old Welsh winger there? I forget his name. Really, really sorry to the historians of our club there. You know who I'm talking about. Hey,
Cliff Jones.
There you go.
That's fun.
Cheers, Dermo. Thank you. I'm sorry, lad. Cliff Jones going in for a pay rise, and the manager putting his feet up on the table and saying, you should want to play for this club for free. And it's true, like to play for Tottenham Hotspur and to play professional football. It's almost like it's the money that's gotten in the game, guys. It's stupid now how much money these footballers are being paid, and to not want it, and just to not even have the basic emphasis of wanting to go out and try and win a tackle. And you touched on it so many times of like, oh, he's a good player, I like so and so because he goes out and he tries. Well, that should be the bare minimum to play the game, not even just don our crest. And so it's embarrassing that we're having this conversation that we don't have anyone who wants to lead this team. So we do need to go on the transfer window before we lose another manager or we throw another manager to the bus, because that's what's going to happen.
I mean, I'm very lucky. I mean, I love my club, and I rarely do eat and breathe Tottenham Hotspur from the history right back, and you go back to the times under Bill Nick, and somebody asked him in the dressing room, what does it mean to play for Tottenham Hotspur? And this is like back in our double winning side when we were the greatest team on earth at that point between 1960 to 1963. We were the greatest team in the world. There was nobody like us. We were the Barcelona of the early 60s. And he said, it doesn't matter what you do or what I do, who owns the club. The people that own Tottenham Hotspur are the fans. They're the ones that pay your wages. They're the ones that come every week. And players like him, Danny Blanchflower, I can go through a list of them. Danny Blanchflower, Jimmy Greaves, Dave Mackay, Cliff Jones, Les Dyson, Terry Dyson, Martin Shivers, Steve Perriman, Graham Roberts, Ray Clements, all them players, Glenn Hoddle, all them players true to then to now, all bled Tottenham Hotspur. And there wasn't much money in the game. And the money in the game has made everyone overgrown, overpaid pansies. And I excuse the word saying it, but they are. There's no commitment anymore. There's no love. There's no going in, I'm going to give 110% today because I love my club. It's all, if I win, lose, or draw, I'm still going to get £100 to £1,000 a week or 80 grand a week. Them players back there were on, them players back in the 60s were on probably 20, 30 quid a week. Players in the 70s, 80s were on £200-300 a week. I know players in the 80s were on £400 a week. Right, a lot of money back then. But they had to go and find jobs when they finished football because they didn't make enough money because they played the game because they loved it. Today, players just play the game because they know they're going to get paid for it. So it's totally been switched. And that's where the mentality comes from. And when you got players like today that will hide behind a manager, that won't go out there and put the foot in at Tottenham or bleed. Or Dave Mackay broke his leg twice playing for Spurs. He broke his leg once, came back, couple of games, he broke his leg again because he was putting a tackle in because I'm playing for the crest. Them players don't give a shit about our crest. Them players don't give a shit about our club. They care about when the next paycheck's coming or when the next big move is coming. Football has lost it. It's sorry, Dave. I'll just quickly make this point. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Sorry. I know it's your show. Sorry.
No, okay.
Football today, players today are not in it for the game. They're in it for the money. Where people in the 60s, 70s, in my generation, in the 80s as well, even the 90s, how shit they were at Spurs. They're in it for the game. They're in it because they want to.
You can see signs there.
I understand what you're saying, Dermo, and to a large degree, I do think the money in the game is gone mad. But, the dressing rooms that you're speaking about there, for instance, the one back in the 60s, I was fortunate, I've been fortunate enough to speak to a lot of the players that won the UEFA Cup and that, in the 80s. I listened to a lot of the class of 91 or 92, whatever you call it, from Man United. But the common thing is they all had that enforcer in the dressing room, or a couple of enforcers in the dressing room, that we're not afraid to call out players for the common good of the football club. Nowadays, and this is well known in football now. Players don't want to be called out on the pitch in front of cameras, in front of pundits, in front of fans, because it's so scrutinized now. People hop on it and the scrutiny that comes with it. But I think that's a huge problem. That's someone that's shirking responsibility. He doesn't want to be called out for being an idiot, basically, for doing the wrong thing. I think it's completely wrong. You listen to some of them great dressing rooms that go on to win things. They had players that would stand up and say, look, I know you're not going to like this. Believe me, I don't like doing this. But stop being a clown. If you weren't a clown, I wouldn't have to call you out. So drag your standards up, But you don't have that nowadays. Everyone has to be friends. You're seeing rivals now hugging each other on the pitch, asking each other how the family is and stuff. Modern day footballers, in my opinion, they just do not get it. To agree, I think they're overpaid, and I think the fact that they're overpaid that much, they don't like people around them telling them no anymore. Whereas I think that's one of the things you can take from years gone by that should be brought into the dressing room, telling people home truths. We're not talking about real life. We're not talking about life here. We're talking about a football environment, an elite sport environment. You have to be able to have the cojones to call people out. But also, if you're in that dressing room, you also have to accept that someone's going to call you out if you're not up to standard, if you're not up to scratch. And we do not have that at Tottenham. That's why we keep capitulating when the going gets tough, because no one will stand up and tell home truths. It's all well and good being friends, fine. But from my experience in dressing rooms, my experience playing sports, and from what I listen to a lot of other people, you have to have an enforcer in the dressing room. You have to have people that speak. For instance, even if you do speak to someone, he starts speaking back. I'm not being funny. But you need someone like Roy Keane to go and put him on a peg and say, now speak to me. Because when he goes to speak back in future, he'll think twice, because he knows what's going to happen to him, because the other guy's stronger than him. That's what we need to get back to. That's what we need at Tottenham Hotspur. Romero has that fear factor. If someone speaks to him, we're all shit scared of him as fans. So will the players. Start taking it start grabbing the grains by the scruff of the neck. Grab the leadership by the scruff of the neck. If you do have a little shithead in the dressing room that wants to answer your back and not take the criticism, hang him on the peg. Walk out as a team in the second half. Leave him there for the next 45 to stew and think about what he's just done. I guarantee you, when you come back in, his attitude would change. Leadership is a huge problem at Tottenham Hotspur. And quite frank, I'm really fed up with it. It just drives me mad. How much do you really want to win? Show me. Show that leadership on the pitch. They don't. They just don't.
I just want to add something very quickly. Yeah. Sorry, just for I'm not lumping everyone in. Not like Sonny. I know Belgium. Joris said, I don't think it's fair to lump everyone in. I know Sonny's injured himself and scored the brace, and I know I'm an older fan, and some younger fans or some fans who are watching football probably don't want to hear about back in the day. I don't give a shit what they think. It's my opinion. And I'm giving them my football experience. I've been watching football for nearly since the early 80s, and I have a right to know. I have a right to talk about the club how I see it. I'm not putting Sonny into that and that thing, but you look at players like Eric Dyer, Sanchez, Dombele, that we bought for 65 million who didn't do anything. You look at players like that. You look at players that don't give a shit. That just go out there just for the paycheck. And there is players that do care. I know Sonny cares. I know Romero cares. And we're getting that culture into the team now where I can relate it back to the early 80s. I can see the same spirit that we had in the early 80s. Once we win something, that is the main thing. Once you win one trophy, it leads on to another trophy because you've got the experience of winning that trophy. We just need to get over that line. But I use football from in my era as an example to now because football's changed. Yes, it has changed, but players don't need to change too. There needs to be leaders, as Dave says. There needs to be enforcers. There needs to be somebody that will take the balls by the horn. Vicario's one of those. Vicario's one of them that never shuts up. He's always yelling. So I think there is leaders. There will be leaders in the team. We just need to weed out the ones that are not. But I will use it, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to offend or bore anyone by saying going back to the 70s or 80s. But that's how I see. That's how I judge players from me as a fan. So
no, it's winning. Winning's winning. Winning's winning. Winning's the same in the 1930s as it is in 2000. Winning is winning. And no, that's a great rant for both you guys. And Dave, you just like light bulb in the head. Like for those of you who know me, I play elite level sports. Like I play third highest division in my country. And so I'm thinking of my own experiences sitting in the locker room, and you've nailed it right on the head. That level of accountability and the ability to communicate and gel and be that level of accountability of I want to win and I owe it to my team to be here and fight for the badge. That doesn't exist with modern younger footballers anymore. And it's almost sad hearing that because I've experienced it firsthand. But I think in this case for Tottenham, I think it's one of those things it's the next thing that's going to happen. It's the next step in our evolution. We saw it very bare minimum when people were slagging us off about the high line, and people love to take that Chelsea game and point to the example, or us being vulnerable in set pieces, or Ange not being adaptable. Everything was proven wrong. We've only conceded one set piece goal this year, and that's the Arsenal game. And our hard line has only contributed to one goal error this whole season. So, and Ange has been adaptable multiple times this season. I don't have to name each one, but I think that leadership ability is going to be the next step of evolution because Ange has left the locker room to players, and he's come out multiple times in his book and in the media. Even just for Tottenham Hotspur talking to one Spur and one Sport, he's come out saying like, hey, I don't get involved. I leave it to them. It's their space. It's their safe haven. And by doing that, I think he's letting it grow organically to the point where there's going to be must-win games, and there's going to be half times where we go in there and maybe we'll see somebody come out of their shell and do that. And that's what he's trusting. And that's the process because I don't see also, you have to add players to that mix too. You do have to add players and stuff, but you mix those ingredients together and you start breeding that culture of winning. No, I don't think you're off by any means, Dermo. Winning's the same now as it was ever, man.
Do you know what? You make a great point about Postecoglou, and you're right. That is the way he sort of manages. It's well documented that he sort of leaves the dressing room to police itself. I do question though right now with the lack of leadership in the group. Does he need to roll up his sleeves, get his hands on, because different strokes for different folks. Does he need to maybe take leadership in that dressing room, and maybe pick someone to sort of be that leader, learn off him and be that leadership off him and start filtering it through? I'm not quite sure. Maybe that's a conversation for another day. But you're definitely right. The longer he's doing it, the less leaders are stepping up. Go on.
See you, Dave. Just to make a point, I'm just looking at the Premier League table, right? And even if you just take in the top 10 teams, right? Liverpool, Manchester City, Forest, Brighton, Chelsea, Arsenal, Fulham, Villa, Tottenham, and Brentford, right? There's the top 10 teams. I can pick on one hand, maybe two, the amount of leaders in that top 10 team. Oh, that top 10 team list, right? Liverpool, you maybe got Van Dijk, Andy Robertson. Those two, Salah. I can, but even Salah, I don't see him I see him moan and complain. I don't see him grab other players by the scruff of the neck and tell them what to do. Like Manchester City. Well, yeah, but I mean, I just think that's as a consequence of, there's many reasons as to why they're probably top of the league, but just like Manchester City, they've maybe got a couple of players. You could argue John Stones, Ruben Diaz. Nottingham Forest, I don't really know their squad well enough to know whether they've got any players like that. Brighton and Hove Albion, I sat and watched them play yesterday. I don't see any singular person just galvanising everybody. Arsenal, you could argue, has maybe got Gabriel. He's a bit of a screamer. He'll let you know when something's wrong.
Rice as well.
But Rice potentially. Fulham, I don't know if there's anybody there that they've got that's like I mean, you go back to this whole kind of Roy Keane-esque, but just somebody that will just like give somebody a rollicking. I mean, as I say, you've got 10 teams there, and I'm struggling to pull 10 players' names out. Like it's there just seems to be a dying breed, you know. That's kind of the point I was getting at. Like it's all so much like a team game, and it's all about shapes and positions, and less about somebody just taking the game by the scruff of the neck. Like it's almost being coached out of players now. And I just think you're seeing less and less of it, and I don't know. I just don't know how you go about going back to that. Like it's just not what people look at nowadays when they're scouting, you know. Or at least it doesn't appear to be.
Do you know what? I think you make an absolute great point there. I was actually saying that the other day on the pre-match show we do for the channel members. You know, I think it is sort of a modern society problem where, you know, you don't have them sort of people coming through, especially in a sports context. You know, it's not just football. You look right across other sports. It's the same thing. You don't really have them old renegades or them leaders really coming through, taking grip of the situation. But the two teams that do, they're the two teams battling out at the top. You know what I mean? So it's sort of like
exactly there you go.
I think we've got to try and go and find that sort of characteristic. I think they are out there. It's just, will Tottenham go and spend the money on one that it requires to come in? Let's wait and see. I just want to take these two chats, then I'm going to plug NordVPN, and then I want to have a conversation about Radu Dragusin with everybody. Dark Song G says, I think Jan can do better than Werner at least. Well, look, yeah, that's a fair point. To be fair, Dark Song G, maybe he might come in and do better than Timo Werner. It'd be interesting to see what we do with Timo Werner, with Jan coming in. Do we get rid of Werner to open up that spot for Jan to register him? Do we not? But let's wait and see, Dark Sun G. I'll be pleasantly surprised if he comes in and hits the ground running. I do think there will be that adaptation period. That's just me personally. But look, let's wait and see for sure. We also have Lumpy Battery. Pundits will notice Spurs after today's results. And look, I really do hope so. I think, but you know what? I think we do get recognition in terms of the way we're trying to play. I listen to a lot of pundits and all, and you know, on podcasts and all, I do think we do get a lot of credit for the way we're trying to play and stuff like that. It's just when we lose, all the pundits want to laugh at us and make fun of us. That's the problem. Everyone hates Tottenham when we lose. It's amplified for Spurs fans because the whole world seems to want to dig at us. But look, we win today. There'll definitely be different conversations had about us heading into the international break. And they also say a lottery watch on me if we go ahead of Arsenal. Absolutely love that. I'll have a Rolex, please, if you don't mind. But honestly, Hugo Lloris, just button it. It's so embarrassing, you know. And the question is, that straight away, if I'm the guy writing the book, the first question I would have said when he said that is, did you take the watch, Hugo? Okay, so if you knew it was wrong, why did you take it then? You know what I mean? It's just absolutely stupid. But big up Luxury Battery. Really appreciate the support, guys. But as you know, NordVPN have been absolutely gracious enough to grace us with their presence and help sponsor this channel moving forward, but also give you guys good deals for VPN so that you can watch every single Tottenham game this season. As we know, there are such things as 3 p.m. blackouts, like today, for example. Game isn't being shown in the UK and Ireland. If you want a way around that, or if you are one that travels to away games across Europe for the Europa League, NordVPN is for you. Basically, it allows you to sort of change your location, bounce to wherever you are. If you're in Spain, put yourself in Spain. But most importantly, allows you still to sign into the packages you already have or allows you to shop around for new packages, allows you to save money. You just simply go on to nordvpn.com, pick a package for you, type in the code FLATCAP, and get your deal. So basically, guys, what you can do with a NordVPN is you save money on watching Tottenham. Like I said, go around, pick out the cheapest prescription for you, to be able to watch all your games. Not only that, but you can save money on traveling. I know it's a thing that if you switch your virtual location to the location you want to travel in, a lot of times your accommodation actually seems to be cheaper rather than when you're booking it from your country going to that country. For some reason, due to algorithms, they seem to ramp up the price. It's also good for the whole family. If you buy one NordVPN, you can actually use it onto up to 10 devices. So if you are traveling with kids, the missus, and they want to watch Coronation Street or Barney in the Big Blue House, that's all there for them on their devices. Just turn on their NordVPN. The massive thing for me, though, with NordVPN, guys, is the no buffering. They sort of the throttle bandwidth. It stops it from going up and down. It's one big thing that if you're trying to get some of these streams, that throttle buffering really happens in the best parts of the game. NordVPN really helps with that, no buffering whatsoever. And also, it's security. It protects all of your features. It protects all of your data that you put in online, all of that good stuff while you're traveling, while you're on open Wi-Fi networks and stuff like that. And basically, guys, it's premium cybersecurity for the price of a cup of coffee a month. So, guys, make sure you get over and do check out the NordVPN. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I use one myself. I know there's a lot of people in this community that are also using one. So make sure you get on that. It allows you to watch every single game. The link is in the description underneath the video, or it is pinned in the chat. If anybody wants to get over, click on it, bring it over to NordVPN and get your VPN. Basically, again, it just allows you to change locations. For instance, no game for me today on telly. So I go, do you know what? Today, I feel like a Seattlean. I'm going to be Jack's neighbor, and I'm going to tune into the game over there. So, in effect, I can't watch today's game, even though it's not on TV over here. So, that's the best thing about NordVPN. So, guys, make sure you get on that, get over and check it out. And also, thank them for the sponsorship. But I think the lineups are out, if I'm correct. Jeez, I'm way behind time today. Let me just get them and bring them up on the screen for you guys. Just bear with me. I'm going to get them up now. One second. Let's see what the starting lineup is today. Let's go, Tottenham Hotspur. Where are we? Here we are. So, 1 second. I'll bring them up for everybody. So, everyone can see that, yes? Yes, perfect. Yep. So, the starting lineup is Vicario in goals, Pedro Porro at right back, Romero and Dragusin at centre back. So, it is the return of the Rambam. Destiny Udogie at left back, Bentancur, Sarr, and Kulu in the midfield three, which I'd argue is our best three, with Johnson, Solanke, and Son forming the front line. On the bench, Fraser Forrester, Jedi Spence, Ben Davies, Archie Gray, Basuma, Bergvall, Madison, Werner, and Will Lancashire returns to the bench. Interesting to see if he gets any minutes today. Drew, what's your thoughts on the lineup, my man? And Radu Dragusin, do you think we're going to see a much different performance today? Because I think we need to then Thursday night, right?
I would hope so. I mean, it would say a lot if he'd have put Davies in there instead. So he's obviously got trust from the manager to be slightly back in there. Even though there's an argument that if you put Davies in there, there's actually a bit more balance because Davies has got a left foot. But it is what it is. I'm kind of a little bit surprised, to be honest. I would think this is one of those games where I think the 2-8/2-10s is actually something that you go for. We're at home. It's against Ipswich. I would have liked to have thought that we could have gone out there with Bentancur or Basuma holding and gone with Madison and Kulusevski, because I actually think that that's our strongest midfield from an attacking point of view for a game like this. So I don't know. I think that's maybe being a little bit too careful considering the opposition. But then I don't know. I wonder if, to be honest with you, I was going to mention this earlier because I think Madison I don't know that Maddison's everything we'd hoped and dreamed he was going to be. And I just think that there's a little bit, I don't know, there's something about him that doesn't quite click for me. Like, I know he's got this kind of lovable rogue, kind of cheeky, when he takes the corners, the opposing fans think he's a lovely lad because they joke with him and stuff. I just think there's something a little bit off with him. Like, when he scored the free kick the other day, when the final whistle had gone, Postecoglou had his arm around him and he was trying to say something in his ear. And Maddison just had this air about him, like he couldn't give a shit what Postecoglou was saying to him.
Yeah.
And as Postecoglou walked off, he kind of muttered something under his breath. And I don't know, man. There's something about that kid.
I don't think they get on. I don't think they like each other personally. I said that, weeks ago. I don't think they like him. I think Postecoglou's asking Maddison to do stuff that Maddison, quite frankly, I think thinks he's too good to do, in terms of tracking back. Postecoglou saying to Maddison, you're not in my midfield because Sarr and Kulusevski have similar output, but they're much better in terms of interceptions, in terms of getting around the pitch and offering us energy in that midfield. You won't do it. And then James Maddison is sitting there going, well, what did you buy me for? I'm a number 10. What did you buy me for? And I think that's the problem. I think they're both at loggerheads. I think Maddison doesn't want to do the work, and Postecoglou's asking him to do work, and he don't want to do it.
Right. Belgian Hotspur, he's just at him here. Do you think Maddis deserves to start over Sarr?
Nope.
I think based on, if you were basing it on name alone and previous, you would suggest there's an argument that Maddison should start over Sarr. Now, whether he has done, well, the argument is based on what he's done previously in the game of football. Like,
fair, okay.
You would think in the hierarchy of football, Maddison should be starting over Sarr because there's 5 years difference. There's so many more games under his belt. The reality is that at the moment, no, I think Sarr deserves to start over Maddison. But that shouldn't be the case, I don't think. And I think that says a lot about Maddison's current attitude.
No, 100%. I agree with you. Look, also, I've tuned into some YouTube lately. I've seen Maddison on snooker channels, dark channels and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not being funny, but if I've been dropped from the England squad and I'm not getting into Tottenham squad, the last thing I'm doing is these cameo appearances on YouTube channels. I'm telling you that now. I'm looking after my own career first and foremost. So I question, is Maddison in a bit of a comfort zone? And I think that's why he's not in the team, quite frankly. But on before we move on and get other people's views through on the lineup, I want to ask you about, you said about Ben Davies dropping to the bench, probably the right call. I agree with you. I do think we have to look to the future. But is that harsh on Ben Davies? Because, in fairness, he was the better of the two Thursday night.
You could argue maybe a little bit, but I think he understands his place. He knows where he's at. I think it's more important to give Dragusin minutes rather than Davies. Like, I think over the course of the last 10 years, I think he's probably had enough minutes, right?
No, 100%. It's a shame that he's only taking them now, to be quite frank. But look, better late than ever before. He's helping us in these cup games and stuff like that. Donovan, what's your thoughts on the lineup, my man?
Yeah, no, I pretty much echo exactly what Drew just said. I even came on earlier when you were coming like in and out of Wi-Fi there, talking to Dermo, how I think number 10s would be perfect against this. So it has to be a thing with Maddison and Ange Postecoglou not getting on. Maybe he did come out in the press and call him out publicly for not starting for England or even getting called up. I think that was pretty bold of him. So I didn't see him do that before. Like, he changed his tune completely, like he'd come out and say before, like, oh, Matters is a good lad. He just needs to keep biding his time. And, but then he comes out this last press conference saying how he didn't say Maddison. Okay. He didn't say Dominic Solanke. He just mentioned how England players need to take advantage of their minutes that they're given when they get put on the field. And I think that's him directly calling out James Maddison, how when he does come on the pitch, he doesn't have enough evidence backing up his ability, because I don't want to harp on Galatasaray and beat a dead horse, but that was such a good opportunity for him to lead a young Bergvall, put your arm around Bergvall, tell him what needs to be done. He just was selfish, and it was sad to see. So maybe Madison needs to rethink his position in the squad. Maybe he needs to play out wide, and he did play out wide for Leicester a couple times, 40 sometimes.
He won't suit out wide for Postecoglou's system. You seen it the other night. He was put out wide for a few minutes. He kept on dropping deep into the midfield to receive the ball rather than stretch the play, which is what Postecoglou wants the wingers to do. He wants them to bring the fullbacks the opposite way. Madison brings them towards the ball. He won't work in this Postecoglou system.
Again, that's his first time playing in the position, right? So either it's a coaching thing that needs to be happening over a series of time where he did transition.
But are we not guilty of doing what we've done in the past, though? Buying a player for a position, he doesn't work there, so we're trying to repurpose him.
Okay, I'm not going to die on this hill, but as for this lineup, though, it's a good lineup. It's definitely more than enough to get over the line here. We need to get these 3 points. But no, I think Davo, the big thing that stands out for me is Sarr. But he's playing himself in a undroppable form. He had a really slow start to the season. I thought that every young player goes through ups and downs, and if you've seen him play away at the San Siro, and you've seen him absolutely capitulate against Crystal Palace. So I'm hoping for a nice level-headed performance from Sarr today. But more than enough quality on this pitch to score multiple goals. The main thing I'm concerned about is just staying fit. We can't have any more injuries. So
100%. And look, with Papa Matsara, I think he's definitely earned his position in the midfield today. And I understand some people would say, we should play 2 number 10s today. We're against Ipswich. We're going to need Madison to unlock the door. But if you actually go and look at Papa Matsara's output and James Madison's output, I think in terms of goals and assists, I think there's only one between them. So it shows how much Papa Matsara has come on leaps and bounds this season in terms of goals and assists. And plus, with how hard he works out of possession and turnovers in midfield, when you're offering both sides of the game rather than one, that's why you find yourself in the team over someone else. And that's exactly what's happening between Sarr and Madison. Dermot, what's your thoughts on the lineup? What's your score prediction, my man? We'll let you go.
Look, I think the lineup's a good lineup. I think the midfield is what I expected. It's a lineup that I expected anyway. I think we're not taking Ipswich lightly, so we're showing them a little bit of respect, which you do have to show in the Premier League. And I think it's a more balanced side when we play with Bentancur, Sarr, and Kulu in the midfield. I think Sarr's been undroppable. I think Bentancur's been bloody good this season so far. So I think he's undroppable too. Look, Madison, for me, I think Madison's not willing to put in the hard yards and not to do the dirty work. And you look at Kulu, who is, I think, been in better form than Madison, to be fair. He will do the hard work. He will do the dirty work. He will drop back and defend as a team. You defend as a team, you attack as a team. And that's, for me, that's how you win games. You work as a team. And the front three, Johnson, I think he'll get a goal today. Solanke never stops working, and what a signing he's been. And Sonny leads by example. Sonny is our captain, fantastic. He's our sort of captain that leads by example, also by leadership, also by how he plays as well, and how he plays the game, and how he trains, and how he looks after himself, and how he does everything in the game. He does lead by example. So for me, I think it's the lineup that's going to be 4-0 up by half time. I really do believe that. I'm going to stick by my match day prediction, Dave. I'm going to stick with 4-0. I want to go to the top of that league. I'm after that title, so I'm ready to get there. But yeah, if you like what I have to say, I know not everyone likes hearing about the past, but if you do, you like what I have to say, please join us. We're only 40 away from 2K. I would love to get there before Christmas, and it's been great a lot again doing the show with Drew and Donovan and yourself, Dave. Thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure and a privilege to come on this channel. So thank you very much indeed for having me on.
No, thank you very much for having me, Dermo. We always love your contributions, and hopefully you're right. 4-0 up by half-time would be absolutely brilliant. Dermo, thank you, my man. Go and do your thing. People, please get over, check out THFC Till I Die. I did put the link here in the chat. Make sure you get over there, check it out, smash the subscribe button, and get over and support Dermotron. Big up, Dermot. Really appreciate your time today, my man. Drew, what's your score prediction, lad? Drew, what's your score prediction, lad?
Oh God, do you know what? I'm having a hard time calling it. 2-0, 2-0 by half time, 3-1 by the end of it.
Oh, I'll take it. Alberto's also gone 3-1. Great minds think alike, as they say. We'll get Donovan. We'll get him to put his link here in the private chat. I'll put it in the chat here for him, guys, and then we'll get you to get over, subscribe, and we'll get his score prediction as well. Why Donovan's posting that link there for me. Do you know what? I'm gonna go 4-1 today. I really like Drew. I really like Liam Delap up front. I think he's one of them. He doesn't need chances created for him. I've seen that guy pick up the ball, run at teams, and put it in the back of the net from outside the box. He's a really, really, really good player. So I do think, and plus when you look at Tottenham, what is it last? I think 13 out of the last 15 home games or something like that. We've gone behind first, but yet come back to win. So I think that's probably set to continue. I think, everyone would then score first. Everyone will worry about Dr. Tottenham, and then we'll go and absolutely steamroll them going the other way. So I'm going with 4-1. Donovan, my man, what's your score prediction, and where can people find you?
No, it's great talking to you guys. Thanks a lot, Davo. Appreciate this conversation. It's great talking with like-minded people and the back and forth we have, and we push back on each other, and it's just good. It's just great. It's not very many people in Canada who can talk Premier League football too, man. And that's the good thing about the Spurs community. And big up Drew getting up early o'clock. Over here, man. It's ridiculous, but that's what we do for the game. And everybody loves an old reminiscence. Dermo, don't even worry about it, man. My channel, Canadian Spurs Boy. Just click the link, give me a subscribe. I'm trying to grow here and talk about my ideas of the club and how Ange Postecoglou is teaching us how to win, and kind of changing our club theos and just learning lessons. Learned lessons against Crystal Palace and Brighton, and we keep pushing forward. The Sands train is up the station today.
We never stop.
Yeah. Sorry, man. What was that?
We never stop. That's the motto. We never stop.
Exactly. To dare is to do, and we never stop. Today, I was just having a quick look because, like Drew, I couldn't call it. Looking how we play, and we just lost. But I looked at the results for IPSWICH this season. Just quickly looked, and they ship a lot of goals. And you did mention their goalkeeper's very just really not very.
He's atrocious.
Totally. And if he does that at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in front of those 15,000 stands, whatever it is, how many people sit in that stand and just ridicule the guy? I could see him coughing up a couple chances. If we had Van de Ven and it was our settled back line where we could play consistently out of the back and didn't have breakdowns in play, maybe coming through Dragusin today, honestly, lads, I would predict something crazy. I think it would be finally one of those games where we click and it might be a 6-goal, 7-goal push where we just see and people are like, whoa, what's going on with Tottenham? Unfortunately, I do see us not having the most fluid buildup of play that would get us those goals. So that being said, I'm only going for 4-1, or 4-0.
Look,
no, I'll go 5-1. I'll go 5-1.
Still a massive victory at this sort of level. I'd definitely take it for sure. And you know what, Donovan? A lot of people are someone's gone 9-0 there, 3-1. I've seen a lot of 5s and a lot of 4s in there as well. But guys, please get over, check out Donovan's channel, smash the subscribe on it. Starting his channel, new adventure for him, Talking Spurs. So please get over there and check it out and smash the subscribe button.
No, I appreciate it.
But I want to say a massive thank you to Drew, getting up mad early for these shows on the weekends. Really, really appreciate it, buddy. And, people really appreciate your input. That's why I keep hassling you to come on. So I really appreciate your time. Same with Dermot. Absolute great guest. I know some of you guys give him a hard time, but he's a lovable rogue, our Dermo. And he's a good guy. And then also Donovan as well. Really appreciate you also getting up mad early, and giving us your time as well. You've been absolutely a great addition to these shows. I want to thank everybody who's gone the extra mile, Dark Sun G, and we also have Lumpy Battery. Really appreciate the support, guys, and all you guys, up at 11 a.m. this morning, 400, 500 people tuning in to hear what we have to say on the build-up to this game. Really do appreciate it. You guys, families, you know, they must hate you on the weekends. I know my missus hates me on the weekend. You know, what we doing Sunday, Dave? Absolutely nothing, because Tottenham are playing, which means my whole day is wiped clear. So you're going to have to occupy yourself, and I'm pretty sure many people are like that as well. But guys, on the way out, please smash the like button. Really helps us with the algorithm. And I'll see you back here at 1:30 to get this watch-along kicked off and watch Tottenham go and beat the Tractor Boys, send them back home with 4-0 between their legs. Let's bloody go. Come on, you Spurs. In the big arms we trust. We never stop, baby.
We never stop.
Come on.
Let's go.